Good morning, my little tater tots, and welcome to the Dick Family Basement on this wonderful Thursday morning. It is, what is it, the 15th already? Can't believe it. January is almost halfway done. I cannot believe this. I am solo today, so if this is your first time here, I usually have my wonderful wife, Catherine, but she got a miserable sleep last night, so she'll sleep in this morning. Here, if it's your first time here, we just go over, or I will just go over kind of some random thoughts and how my week went and answer any questions that you might have. You might be thinking to yourself, hey, wait a minute, I do have a question. Well, you know, the best way to ask those questions is to phone my 1-844 number, 1-844-340-5001, or give me a story about something funny that might happen to you, maybe a moment where you felt the presence of God, or honestly, even a prank phone call would be much appreciated. Without any further ado, let's go to news that is news for me. So everyone knows my two favorite teams is the Bucks and the T-Wolves, Minnesota Timberwolves and the Milwaukee Bucks. Out of those two, T-Wolves is definitely my favorite. They played each other, and the T-Wolves, shorthanded without Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert, just smoked the Bucks. And the Bucks had a game just recently where they got smoked too at home, and the fans were booing the Bucks, and Giannis booed back. So I don't know what that says about Giannis being traded. He claims that he does not request a trade. The Bucks need to do something. I don't know what they can do in the trade deadline. Trade deadline for the NBA is next month. And the T-Wolves are doing okay. They need a ball handler. They need a point guard, really, but they don't really have a really dedicated point guard. Mike is too old, and Rod Dillingham is not good enough at this point. Steelers got their butts whooped, and it was a very sad fourth quarter there for the Steelers. It just seems like we always get into the playoffs, and what does that mean? We're out the first round. So Tomlin is gone. I talked to the only sort of diehard Steelers fan I know yesterday here in Moose Jaw. He really likes Tomlin. He's very connected with professional football and stuff like this, so he knows a lot of CFL guys or whatever. And he says, Tomlin is very well respected and everything else like that. No doubt. But I didn't like him. I didn't like the hire at the beginning. You know, he never had a losing season, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. But he just really injected a lot of politics into the locker room and stuff like this, which I did not appreciate at all. Anyways, I'm glad he's gone. I didn't like him as a coach. Hopefully, we'll get a good coach there. But we're on official coach watch now. As you well know, or maybe you don't, I coach a elementary school basketball team, a boys basketball team. I've been doing it for like close to 8 years now, I think. Anyways, we are 2-0, but we haven't played any real competition. No offense to the teams that we played. Our competition will start this coming up Monday. We'll play. There's a boy in one of the schools at St. Margaret's who is over 6 foot tall. So they are a very good team. They won one, lost one, I think. But anyways, we'll look into that. I preached over this past weekend. Now, when I preach, I go to the A&W the Monday after I preach, and I've been doing that for about 8 years. And this is the first time ever, okay, that I go to have coffee on a Monday, and we have to cut it short because of either a staff meeting or a staff party. It's never happened to me. I've never thought about those things before. And this year it's happened to me twice. So it's crazy. So if you actually came to A&W and I wasn't there or was locked, it's because, well, they had a staff party last Monday. So it's kind of too bad about that. But there was lots of people. Actually, I was there until around 7 o'clock. So there was lots and lots of people. I've been doing lots of epiphany chalkings, probably more than I ever have. I've doing epiphany chalkings and house blessings to people that are, let's just say, very irregular attenders at St. Joe's. So it's nice. I've been going to lots of places where I've never been before. People are very appreciative. It's been nice. I went out to an acreage. I might be going out of town to do a chalking this month. So I'm doing lots of stuff. As I was just reviewing my week, I was thinking like, why have I been so busy? It doesn't seem like I've been doing lots. Oh, right. I've been doing lots of these Epiphany chalkings, which is awesome. I've been doing lots of personal meetings like this. Some of them have been for people that want to be Catholic. This is a funny thing that happened to me. There's this young lady who wants to be Catholic. She's not baptized. She's been coming to church every Sunday for probably over a year now. She really wants to be Catholic. And she sits down, we're talking, and, I was just talking to her process, how the process changed. And I just told her that, I've been working here now, 2026. It'll be my 20th year working at St. Joe's. And I just mentioned that to her. It's been my 20 years, just offhanded to tell her kind of how it's changed, what we've done, and stuff like this. And she looked at me just flabbergasted, because then I realized, oh yeah, she must be only like 22 or 23. Like, she's just looking at me like, oh my gosh, you've been working here for close to how long I've been on this earth. Like, wow. Yeah, it's true. I've been there. So, yeah. And like I said, I preached this past weekend, which went okay. It's tough sometimes to, preach, because you just, some readings, or sometimes you kind of run out of gas, or you just don't know really what to preach about. And that's what I've been encouraging people when they come on my Monday evenings or whatever once a month, is to give me some ideas. Sorry, some themes that I could preach on and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's kind of my week in review. Catherine is not only back at work teaching, but she is also going through her canon law studies. This semester, one of her classes on Eastern churches, so particular churches like the canon law of, the Byzantine churches and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. It's very interesting, I think. It's like that. Lots of big, thick, expensive books that she has to get. So that's always exciting. Oh, and it was my sister Toby's birthday and my nephew Ronan's birthday these last couple of weeks. So it's very exciting. We're going over there this Sunday to have a little party. So that's always exciting. Birthdays are exciting. Parties are exciting. I think that's about all about this week, what I did. Like I said, if you would like to ask any questions or comments, please use my 1-844 number. That's 1-844-3405-001. So this is a kind of obscure thoughts, kind of ordered stream of consciousness. Today, I think I want to go through some of them with a little bit of haste, like go through them. So first, I promised today I would talk about the successful Advent campaign. Here's what I need from you, from all my faithful listeners, or maybe unfaithful listeners. I don't know. Maybe this is your first time. What would you like me to do? I do have some ideas like this, but I don't know if it's going to resonate with the people out there. I did that. 2 years ago? I've done studies before, but to be very honest, for the amount of work that I put into it, which is not here nor there, I haven't been getting much traction for them. People are disinterested. My Vatican II study was mostly a selfish reason to force me to read every single Vatican II document. So that's good in of itself. But I really would like to meet the needs, whatever that might be, of the people listening, people engaging, people that donated. What do you want to see? What do you want to hear in the Redeemer? I would really, really appreciate your input, because right now I'm just kind of, walking in the dark in a sense. So what would you like to happen here in the Redeemer? I have a sneaking suspicion you don't want more me, in a sense. So what do you want? Like, what study would you like? Would you like something on a maybe monthly or weekly or every 2 weeks basis on talking about prayer, talking about, the Bible, talking about Catholic faith, talking about philosophical questions? I'm very open to anything. And if you have that, please either email, leave a comment below, or phone my 1-844 number. That's right, 1-844-340-5001. So hopefully I'll compile some of those ideas like this, and then we'll go from there. I'll kind of have a game plan of what we want to do here at In the Redeemer. One of the things, and this is just part of my obscure thoughts, and it's for people that know me, know that I think and read a lot about this. I'm reading Thomas Merton's book on the monastic orders. It's like this, particularly the Benedictines and the Cistercians orders. Um, and I pray for for religious orders, especially monastic orders, to come to our dioceses like this. And one of the things I've been really thinking about is that why do we have this compulsion not to stay in one place? Like, I think there is a compulsion, and as we look at the church, we see this in our clergy, in our leadership, and it's like this, is that there is there's no real impetus to be with the people, to be in a place, to kind of find joy wherever you're planted, like Saint Francis de Sales talks about, right? And I think there is an erosion to this. There's always this escapism. There's always this thing that the sort of the nitty gritty of people are to be avoided. And I see this not only in church leadership. I had this very good talk. We talked for about an hour about even the educational institutions and stuff like this, about the disconnect between leadership and people on the ground and stuff like this. And so why is that? And okay, just bear with me. This is obscure thoughts. But I think one of the things that is missing is a real concrete example of people being accountable to a community and larger, and to have permanence. So I think that's what the monastic orders gave us. And I think that once there hasn't been any bishops and priests, or very few or bishops and popes and cardinals that don't come from the monastic order, there is no real explicit example of this. You know, one of the vows you take as a monastic is what's called permanence, is that basically the cluster or the community that you give your promises to, and so like this, to the abbot, you know, you're going to be there until you die, basically. Now we can talk about the sort of intervention of our last pope in this, but traditionally that's what it was all about, is that as a monk or as a nun in a monastic order, you stay there, you know, and you live and die within your own cloister community, but also you're accountable to the greater community, right? One of the monastic calling is to be light of the world, to be open, right? You know, there's always this very strong sense in monastic orders of hospitality, to be hospitable to the greater community. And I think that when that role or that sort of thing is diminished, when the monastic diminishes, we don't have any role models to look up to. We just look at the world, and the world is very transient. The world is very, if it's difficult, don't do it, or only pursue your own ego, only pursue what's comfortable, only pursue, you know, what is successful and everything else like that. The monastic order gives us something different. Pursue something you're not good at, right? You read a lot of these diaries of the monastics like this, and it's very difficult for them. It's hard. Of course it is. Dealing with people, it's hard. And I think part of it too, and Thomas Merton talks about this in New Seeds of Contemplation, is that sooner or later, all this stuff will be stripped away from us. And we need, like for instance, you know, I go to Providence Place, you know, there's a permanence there, but it's a forced permanence. No one's go there. And some people find that very difficult. It's because they haven't really practiced that in their life. I'm not, you know, so anyways, that's my obscure thoughts about what role does the monastic order, and that's one of the roles, and there's many roles in that. I pray every day that we would get a monastic order within the Archdiocese of Regina. One of the other things I have here is I want to make newspapers great again. And maybe I'm just an old man shaking my fist at the sun, but I do miss, you know, when I was young, you know, the newspaper was there. There was a ritual there, right? And you might think, some of you young people there, or some of you tech savvy people, and I'm one of those tech savvy people. I like technology. It's like, Lamont, you can get that on your phone. But there is something about a thing that has one purpose. There is something about reading a newspaper, something physical, that allows you to be full of concentration, right? Like, you can go on your phone. It's like this. I'm trying to decouple from my phone and everything else like that, but you're distracted. And because the phone is so small in screen sizes, that it does constrain your attention span. You're not going to, at least I don't, I find it very difficult to read anything of like length on a phone or anything else like that. I go to press review. Anyone with a valid library card should go to their library website, and you can read hundreds, if not thousands, of different newspapers around the world. And I do that quite often, but on a screen is just not the same either. Like I would like a weekly newspaper, something like this, something I can touch and hold and feel, and just that ritual of, I just have this image of my dad, getting home from work, and one of the first things he did, other than getting one of us to take off his boots, is to sit in his chair and wait for a few moments before supper is served and just read the newspaper. Or sometimes in the morning with a cup of coffee, read the paper. Now, you might think that's just all romantic and everything else. Sure, it probably is, yes, for sure. But I do think, though, the time it takes to flip through a newspaper like this adds something to one's life, adds some goodness in one's life. I really like it. Now, in the case of Musha, it was a good reason, in a sense, why the newspaper collapsed here in town. It wasn't good. My dad was a faithful subscriber to Musha Times Herald for a gazillion years and stuff like this, and very, I don't know what the right word is, a big supporter of it, let's just say. But at the, probably about 7 years before it actually failed, it just got to be really, lack of a better word, trashy. It wasn't good. Some of it could be because of funding being cut, or like advertising. Some of it might be like, oh, we're going to chase the new cool thing and everything else like that, try to get more readers and everything else like this. But those things never work. So anyways, how can we, I guess this is more of a question or thought, like how can we make newspapers great again? How can we start printing them and stuff like that? I have no clue. Speaking about newspapers, my last thing that I want to talk about, a bit obscure thoughts, is that I just read in the Globe and Mail this morning is a long article about how the drug experiment in the BC is going to end. So they basically decriminalized all drugs there, had a bunch of safe injection sites and everything else, and it failed because, well, no matter what anyone says, is that it just caused more drug addicts and more ODs and everything else like that. This should tell us something. When how should I put it? When this sinful action is normalized, bad things happen. I see this in pornography, right? When pornography is easily accessible, when it's normalized, when people say, I don't care, bad things happen. I look at the UK. The UK is actually, they do some crazy things politically or whatever, but they realize this you have to opt in to have pornography in your internet and stuff like this in the UK. At least that's my understanding. And of course, there's probably ways to get around it, blah, blah, but they're trying to make it difficult. And why? Is the government of the UK some sort of moral champion? No, not at all. But they see the destructive force of pornography. People losing, their life, their way of life. Some people who are addicted to pornography, don't wake up in the morning to go to work. They can't focus. They can't have normal relationships. They are, in a strong sense, I was talking to someone that struggles with this. You're just a vegetable, just waiting for the next sort of hit of dopamine of watching something on a screen. This is the same thing with drugs and stuff like this. When we don't treat drugs as some sort of social problem, right? Like drug addiction is a problem within society. It needs to be eradicated in a sense. We need to stop the flow of illegal drugs into our communities. We need to make sure it's very difficult for people who are addicted to these drugs to get them, and we need to have real helps for them not to be addicted anymore, to come in, to integrate into society. Full stop. That's the loving response. The loving response is not, do whatever you want just as long as you don't hurt anyone. Well, the problem is that you'll hurt so many people. I guess it's sort of the adage, are we so free that we can sell ourselves into slavery? In a sense, that's what all these addictive things are. This is what all these very insidious, sinful things do to us. We become addicted to those sinful actions. And of course, I'm talking about extremes of drug and pornography addiction, but just look at consumerism, to being this addiction to consume more, this addiction to have more pleasure in one's life, or more adventure, or whatever it has. That you become a slave to that. One of the interesting people that I meet up probably once every about 7 years is a gentleman that I graduated with, and it's kind of a success story. He wasn't very good at high school. He kind of got his bearings straight. He went to university a little bit later in life, became a very successful engineer, but he just became super addicted to travel. And you talk to him and you ask him, like, and he's very happy about all the things he did, but he's never had a wife, no family, no nothing. And you ask him why, and he said, well, I just have this compulsion to go. He's very good at his professional job, and so he would take these contracts for 6 months, save everything, live like a very impoverished person, take all that money, and then go and travel the world for a year. So to have this consumable lifestyle, this consumable of action and everything else like this. But you talk to them, and if you kind of strip away the veneer of this excitement, it's just an empty life. And he doesn't, and when you talk to him, he doesn't know how to get out of it. There's something as benign as that can really make us a slave to those things. So, like I said before, if I was actually had a producer, or if I could do it both me talking and manipulate my soundboard, I'd have a little bump, like, I don't know, like boo for the next segment. And basically it's games being played. So I haven't, although as you well know from last week, I have some stack of $5 bills. And if we play a game in the family and you win $5. So I think we played one game in the past week, this Asterix and Obelix game, this card game. Shout out to Asterix and Obelix, probably one of the easily the top 5 best comics out there, or graphic novels if you're snooty like me. And it was awesome. I won, so my $5 goes back into the pot. So everyone was a little bit disappointed. Of course, Serafina didn't win, so she got a little bit angry that she didn't win. But hey, that's how it goes. I'll be playing a bunch of games, hopefully I know I will be. I don't know if it's a bunch of games, but I'll play some games on Saturday. There is this really cool game called World Spanner. It used to be called Duel of Ages. Anyways, I'm going through that. I might play a solo campaign here next week. So yeah, I do play solo games. I know, it's crazy. So if you are around anytime and you want to play a game, please let me know. Thoughts for the thoughtless. What have I been reading? Well, I've been reading 3 books, and they're all very different. The Enforcer, number 2. So during the time of like Mac Bolan, the Executioners, like this, there was all these sort of knockoffs that came out. One of them, I would say, is The Enforcer. What was their tag? Like what was their in is that the main character is a clone, and he just basically jumps with bodies to other bodies like this. But he's just sort of like a Mac Bolan sort of character. He goes and, saves the people, does all this stuff. Is it interesting? Yeah, it's not too bad. Like it's a worthwhile read. It's a little bit too spicy for me in some ways, so I just skipped those areas. But other than that, it's not bad. It's a good read. We have the Omega Point, and the reason why I got this, so it has a really cool cover, but I got this book because he actually quotes Teilhard de Chardin, who was a kind of a Catholic scientist / theologian. All of his theological work was published after he died. But yeah, he quotes this. And what's interesting about this is called the Omega Point. What's the interesting point of this is that there's this sort of rebel this is science fiction, this rebel from a different species of humanoid in a sense, like, and they got kind of slaughtered and everything else like this. And there's only a small group of them. And there's this like alpha guy who's the leader of the rebels and everything else like this. And he does, lack of a better, terroristic things or whatever. But as you go through the book, everybody that's pursuing this guy and looking, it's like this, has this great respect for him and has this admiration for him, even though he's this violent guy and stuff like this. So there's this interesting sort of give and take to this. My last book, and I should be probably finished reading this today, is called Herds. So Laser Books was an imprint of Harlequin before Harlequin took over not took over, but made Gold Eagle stuff. So Laser Books was kind of like their science fiction and stuff like this. So they had this very strict editorial power over their books. They couldn't have a lot of violence or no sex and everything else like this. But anyways, so that's kind of the history of these laser books, these laser sci-fi books. But so this Herds book is really interesting. I won't. The crux of it is there's this alien race that can travel all around to any galaxy or whatever, but using their mind. So they're physically still in their home world, but they can go all over the world. And this one guy experiences a murder on Earth, on our Earth, and he's trying to get permission to go back and make sure the guy who killed this other person is held to justice. Now, it is, and there's some other tension and everything else like this. It's actually a good book. Like, I was surprised. Like, so you know me, I read these like 1970s kind of like very much trade back, very consumable books or whatever, cool stuff like that. But it's worth the $2 I paid for it. That's for sure. So it is pretty cool. It's called The Herd. What have we been watching? I've been watching Stranger Things. We're in season 4, which season 4 is way better than season 1, 2, and 3, especially season 3, which really was bad. I'm just going to watch it to say that I watched it, basically. At this point, it's okay. It's kind of like tries too hard to be kind of edgy and kind of like current when it's supposed to be set in the 80s, which is kind of weird. The storyline is pretty good, actually. I thought they could do a lot more stuff, I guess, with it, but who am I to say? I haven't published anything or anything else like that. So we finished the Copenhagen test. If you like sort of intrigue, I think I talked about this last week, that is something to look at. We are going to be watching Predator Badlands sometime this week. We're going to Regina after school on Friday, so probably Saturday in the evening we'll be watching this. I really encourage anyone to watch that. Okay, so we are on time this week. Whoa. I don't have any disputed area. It's all love today. Stuff like that. Oh, I guess my disputed area is that basketball teams that run up the score just to run up the score. I don't really like that. But anyways, we can talk about that next week about like my but my I guess, how should I put it? My disposition of how to coach basketball, I guess. Okay, here's my inconsequential hot take. Now, for all you people that don't have a Costco membership, okay, I get it. You know, I got Costco membership for Catherine for her birthday a few years ago, and we do go to Costco. One of the things that I find really interesting is that they sometimes have certain products in different packaging, right? And the Costco packaging just makes so much sense. Now, one of the ones that I really take note of is molasses. Yes, molasses. I know. Anyways, you get molasses at a grocery store. It's in these stupid little cardboard things, and it gets drippy all over. If you've ever used molasses in these containers, it gets all messy and it sticks to. You just don't use it, right? Like, at least I don't. In Costco, they have it in a squirt bottle almost. It's a plastic bottle, whatever, and it's like, cool, no more mess or whatever. So here's my inconsequential hot take, because I do like molasses. Molasses is awesome on French toast. It is so delicious. Serafina made French toast bites or whatever, and I heated them up because they're frozen. I heat them up, and I just put molasses, just a little bit of molasses. It is so delicious. Molasses on French toast is better than syrup, okay? I'm just going to say that straight up. I love it. I do like molasses. I like molasses a lot, in matter of fact, obviously, because I put it on my French toast. But next, what's the next thing? So all you ballers know is that buckwheat pancakes are amazing, okay? Buckwheat pancakes with a fried egg with a soft yolk, oh my gosh. That's and then you have to have lots of butter on those buckwheat pancakes and bacon. That's almost perfection. That is, you can't get anything better than that, right? I'm thinking buckwheat pancakes with molasses and butter might be really good. Now, you might be thinking buckwheat pancakes are pretty savory. Molasses is pretty sweet. Yeah, but molasses has that really, and I'm going to sound really pretentious, but molasses has that really complex sweetness. That sweetness that just gives you a big hug to say, yeah, you know what? This is awesome. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that molasses on buckwheat pancakes will just be I'll just have a moment there. I'll just have a little bit of it. I'm just like, wow, this is peak humanity right now. Is it going to be better than buckwheat pancakes, butter, fried egg, soft yolk with bacon? Probably not, but it's going to be up there. Anyways, if you do have an inconsequential hot take that you'd like to share with the world, please let me know, as you've guessed it, at 1-844-340-5001. It is 6:45. That's usually when we end. Actually, lately we've been ending at more like 6:50 or 6:55, which is way too late. No one wants to hear me that long. So please stick around, and we will have the Divine Mercy Chaplet at 7 a.m. Until next time, God bless, have a great day, and keep it crispy, military tots. Bye.